just goes along, it just goes a lot further. So Tableau, some of you have probably heard about Tableau. Tableau is an amazing tool. I love data, I love visuals, so I'm in the perfect place. What you're looking at is something that we are currently operationalizing and validating. And as Mike said, he's going to introduce a dashboard in GradMit. We're hoping to put a dashboard on the internal site that allows you to log in every day and track the cycle of your numbers. Offers, total apps, completed apps, enrolled on a daily basis. So instead of waiting for Fridays when the weekly report comes out, you'll be able to actually monitor that daily. We also have yields, as Chris indicated, which are very important. So the bottom of the dashboard is going to have application yield, enrollment yield, and acceptance yield. And they're both on a they're both a comparison as to this cycle to the last cycle. So you can see in terms of where you are in comparison to where you were last year, which is very good in terms of looking at where you're going to be in the very end. So this is something that we're definitely validating right now. It is not live yet, but we have a deadline that Chris gave us, and we're definitely, and I would say we're in phase 2 of this, and we're definitely very excited about this feature in general. So what can Tableau do? As I said again, it is a visualization tool that allows you to pull data in and make it more user-friendly and easy to understand. What you're looking at here, this is just some of the stuff that we've been tinkering around in. And this is just applications by zip code, as you can see. Applications by country. And each on the right, you'll see the report and the visual that supplements it. It just makes it a lot easier for you to see in terms of what is going on instead of just looking at a spreadsheet format. Tableau in higher education, as I said before, what we're doing here, and this is very important, program information source. On all applications, there's that program information source question. What we did, we took that data, plugged it into Tableau. Where are students hearing about your program from? This is very important that we can look at marketing techniques, whether it be gradschool.com, Google+, Facebook, which we vamped up. And as you can see what we have down there, we have different semesters, so you can see as the trends and the times change, which tool is definitely more beneficial. And this is definitely something useful as we change different techniques to get different students into your program. And this is just a view of what the Tableau dashboard looks like. There are different workbooks that you can see. We're currently working on a lot of different options, a lot of different things, but just so you know, it is in its infancy stage. I would say between me and Alex, we are moving forward very aggressively. We're trying to streamline strategic reporting and also some ad hoc reports that we think would be beneficial to you. I'm going to pass it off to Alex, and he'll just tell you about what our general goals are.
Thank you, Troy. Hello, everybody. My name is Alex Nelson. I joined the Graduate Enrollment Office in October of this year as an instructional support technician. So I'm pretty new to this, and Tableau is pretty new to UB, so it's a good fit so far. I'm just going to talk generally about our goals for Tableau. Even though it's still in its infancy, we are planning to take the opportunity to use Tableau as our primary data reporting and visualization tool. So all of the reports that we generate now, whether it be the ad hoc requests that we get through email, our weekly admission and application activity reports, those reports about individual program statuses, we'd like to take that from the current mishmash of, Access plus Excel plus Siri plus whatever else we use, and move them into Tableau and be consistent in the products that we deliver to the university community, and publish things that are not just visually attractive, but much more useful than the current static reports that we publish now. So the current reports, improving and automating those is a very important goal for us because those are all currently generated manually. We run queries out of Access every Friday to get you your enrollment numbers on a weekly basis, but Tableau lets us automate those and save hours and hours of staff time and deliver more regular reports. We can do reports daily instead of weekly. which might be useful in some situations. And we also plan to look at new reports that we might be able to start pushing out. As Troy said, GradMed is such an extensive system. It collects so much data. We have a lot available, but what we report is a small fraction of that. And we're really starting not only to look at the software, Tableau, but we're starting to look at what other data is available to us, what else can we report about the demographics, the educational background of students coming in, the applicants, enrolled students. There are a lot of possibilities, and that's part of what we're exploring. And I just wanted to, it's a little risky, but I wanted to go into a couple of sample data sets. And these are publicly available. You can go on the Tableau website and take a look at some of these. The link is in the PowerPoint. One of the major advantages of Tableau over Excel and Access and the current systems we use is that these reports are incredibly dynamic. And what I mean by that is, instead of looking at a static sheet of numbers that only change when you type different numbers in them, you can look at individual data in charts that allow you to filter very, very quickly. Could be you can filter based on dates. You can filter based on type of data available. You can have multiple sheet workbooks where you can move between data sets very quickly and very visually. So you can see individualized sets of data depending on what you might be looking at. And again, all of these are just public. I'll show another one that's pretty impressive. We have a lot of different degree programs and schools at UV, and just the filtering ability alone is very advantageous to be able to filter, to show lists that we might just distribute now, but filtering based on big categories. But it basically allows you to see a lot of data in a format that you can change at will. And we can't do that centrally when we are just publishing spreadsheets that are distributed to everybody in the university. So this really would give you the power to look at specific data that's relevant to your units.
Alex, there's a question.
Alex, I just wanted to ask if it would be possible to configure this, thank you. It would be possible to configure this so that among the data that we analyze is actually the application essay, so we can begin to understand what qualities of our programs are repeatedly cited by applicants, and thus begin to better understand how our reputation appears nationally and internationally.
So the application essay?
Yeah. Like what they want to study, who they want to study with, these kinds of things.
Oh, you're referring to more qualitative data. That might be in a student's personal statement. Well, there are some fields in GradMeds. I know some departments use just existing checklists to indicate who an applicant might be interested in working with. I'm not familiar with Tableau's qualitative data analytics, but it's very powerful software, and I don't doubt that it's possible to do that. It's again brand new to us, so we're still kind of learning all the capabilities. And that's something that we'll definitely note, and we'll take a look at. Yeah, I mean, if the data is in GradMed, it can be visualized.
Yeah, one of the things I just reached over and was telling him about is that this is still in its infancy, but there may be a way of doing this. Looking at kind of an automatic content analysis, we're still learning as we're going through. I mean, it's a very good idea. As a matter of fact, it's given me an idea on another front, but really looking at that and in terms of what are the students saying in their personal statement, that's a great recruiting idea, and that really is a good thing to look at, because you're finding out if there's common themes between those two, then maybe you need to adjust your program based upon what the students are talking about. That's very good.
Okay. So that's a brief overview of Tableau. The next steps in the immediate future, as Troy mentioned, we're working on an admissions dashboard that will show you a lot of the information we push out weekly, but updated daily. So that will be published on our GEN's internal website soon. It's still being finalized and worked on, and there are issues about software licenses where certain audiences will only be able to view it, but we're working on resolving those. In the interim, though, if you would like to go into the Tableau website, there are plenty of those data sets that you can download and just play around with. If you download this Tableau Reader software, it's completely free. It's not the full version, so you can't manipulate the underlying data, but you can change the visualization, you can adjust filters, and you can really get an idea of what the capabilities of the software are and how much more powerful it is than Excel or Access. And all those are publicly available and right on the Tableau website, so we can make these links available to you. And as you're doing that, we would welcome any suggestions and any feedback that you might have, any reports that we're not doing right now that you might like to see, any changes you might like to see to the current reports. We kind of get these, again, on an ad hoc basis a lot, but if there are kind of big picture things that you think our office should be reporting, or reporting in a different way, we would certainly love to hear from you. And if anybody has any suggestions at the moment.
This is, again, particularly useful given the fact if there are things that you want as your quality measures. Again, I get back to, I'm not bashing on my undergrad friends, but I get back to and I'm talking about this on a national level. It's very easy to be able to look at trends for undergrad students, SAT, ACT, and GPA, and median, and all that. But there are many qualitative measures that different programs look at based upon what they view in their associations and their consortium of their schools that they participate with as important quality indicators. And I think that's extremely important information. I think sometimes we're too top down, and I think we need to be visible in that regard, because clearly exposure to those programs can also be, in a uniqueness factor in how good you're doing something, can also be a recruitment tool. Jim?
So is this where I would go if I wanted to see a geographic distribution of my domestic inquiries?
Yes, you would be able to do that when it's fully functional, and actually we probably have a report that's up there that you could take a look at that data. We'd have to add and update it. It's a work in progress, but the idea is you'll be able to slice and dice the data in ways that you were not able to do before, and that a spreadsheet is just not really very user-friendly to be able to do.
Yeah, these are a couple samples of that functionality. So we have, you can see that the size of the circles here around Buffalo are huge. That's where most of our applications come from. You can visualize it worldwide and see India as a very high volume source of applications. So mapping possibilities here really are limitless. It's overwhelming at times, but it just means that anything is really possible as long as that data is collected and grabbed. Well, the dashboard is.
The dashboard is being completed. We're still validating the data because we're very, very careful in terms of putting it out there and then not being consistent. So we had an internal deadline of March 1st. I'm not sure what Chris is going to manipulate that deadline, but I would say we're in phase 2, and we're constantly checking it daily to ensure that it is on par with access queries that we run. But it is, I would say, about 80%.
Yeah, and there are other things we want to do with this that I don't even want to say, because again, there are limited opportunities, but I don't want to do anything until we can absolutely know we can do it, and I don't want to comment and do that yet. But this tool here is really the wave in higher ed, and I have to say that UB is an early adopter of this. If you look on the Gartner quadrants, this is an up-and-coming tool that has made great strides, because it's very different than many of the other mechanisms that are out there. It's a very intellectual, analytical tool that allows for a great deal of customizability. And I know when I spoke this summer at a conference, and I was showing some screenshots that Troy was in the audience for. He was there as a helpful participant. And people were blown away at some very large schools. They're like, oh my God, you're doing this? People are jumping on that bandwagon. But Tableau actually has asked that we have Troy be maybe one of their spokespeople to get out there to say how grad education is using this tool. I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity here. But again, we're learning. So, yes?
Is this from an Access? Is this from the Access that they do the data dump into?
It can be done through Access, it can be done through Excel, and I'm sure there's many, many different prehistoric versions that it can be done through.
It's very powerful because you can link to multiple data sources, whether it be Microsoft SQL, Access, Excel, Oracle.
So some of our MBA, like GMAC actually uses this, so
Yes.
if they have that, can we data dump, can we kind of compare using some of that? That would be, for
Yeah.
us, that would be really helpful.
Just so everyone knows, management actually uses this software for one of their classes, I think. So the good thing is you guys have access to this software already. If you learn the software, you can link your internal databases to Tableau, and you'll be surprised what you can analyze it there.
When we're doing the source, when we're looking at the source of the data and that historical trend, are you guys going back to the same, right? If we're getting the application, is like a drop down? Or if it's other, do they actually get to type in what the source is? Because obviously now it's social media.
The source of where did you hear about our
Right.
program? At the
Right,
moment, I
so
think it's a
they
drop
look
down.
at that.
No, Mind actually recently updated that to include Google Plus, Facebook. So I'm not sure how many people have looked at that list, but it includes a lot more options than were previously there all the years ago. So it's now very, very inclusive of a lot of options that are what they were like 2 or 3 years ago.
Any other questions? Again, this will be evolving as we're going along, but we wanted to show you kind of the direction where we're going with it, but a really fascinating tool, and I encourage you to kind of learn more about it. Thank you, guys.
Not go with these mics, so. All right. So for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Holly Cito. I started about 6 months ago. I'm just going to give a brief overview of the stuff that we've been working on marketing-wise. I did want to say one comment as far as in the future for sources for social media. One of the things that one of my futuristic goals would be to not only see which social media source they're coming from, but be able to tell whether it's GEMS or an individual school, because we all use different social sources. So that's kind of, even if we have that feature on there, it's still a little ambiguous. But just to go over a couple of things. So our website was updated back in March, and we're now on the CMS platform. We can't really compare apples to oranges with our old website. I know a lot of people here know what it looks like, we were used to look like, and it's been drastically improved. But we do see about 5,000 to 9,000 additional visitors per month now on our site, and we think that this might have something to do with it. In June, we reevaluated our social media efforts. At the time, we were really simply using tools such as Facebook and LinkedIn, just because everybody else was. We had a presence, but we weren't really using the tools strategically. So since then, we've been trying to use them to actively engage students and use it as more of a recruitment tool. Basically just using social media in a more strategic way. And this is really, not only did we consolidate social media to make it a little bit more manageable, but we increased our post frequency, consistency, and engagement with our audiences. As a result, our average organic reach on Facebook posts has nearly doubled for each post. We've driven a lot more people to our website as a result. Our Twitter followers have increased by 32%. And we recently launched an Instagram account. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about that and mention, because I know a lot of people are like, okay, well, we don't really have the staff to run a social media, all these social media accounts. How do we stay on top of it? And in our office, it's just me, so I understand how you feel. But one of the things that we started doing is letting our students, UB students, grad students, anyone that's on the campus, do the content generation for us. And this is just an example of that. So these are, right now we're using Instagram as more of a content curation and generation tool, not necessarily trying to build our Instagram followers, but to use it as a way to push things to our main social media channels, Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. So this is just an example of some students who shared some content, and we said, hey, thanks for sharing. We posted this to our Facebook. It gets twice as much engagement as your regular post. So just some things that we've been working on. Also in 2013, we started introducing some new email campaigns. Chris mentioned this a little bit. This is just an example of reaching out to new audiences and trying to build a prospect pool. We wanted to take advantage of this low-hanging fruit, and the example that's up here, we basically created targeted communications to current undergraduate students. We segmented these communications into sophomores and freshmen, and then juniors and then seniors. So each got a different message that would be a little bit more valuable to them. And that's the subject line of each message. And you can see that these were extremely successful. If anyone's familiar with email open rates, they're usually more like 1 to 5%. So, we were very surprised at how powerful these are, and not only what we're able to track what they're clicking on, but in the end, and eventually down the line, we'll be able to see whether or not these people actually applied and maybe tie it back to the specific marketing initiative. So the main thing with these email campaigns that we're starting to do is we're really positioning ourselves more as a thought leader and a resource for prospective students. I think in the past we've been pushing out a lot of messaging, and we're really trying to take a more student-centered approach. As Mike said, getting GradNet into a place where we're looking at people and not just numbers anymore. And really trying to pull people in by offering them valuable information, good customer service, and really just establishing relationships. So that's kind of the new position that we've been taking with our marketing efforts. And for 2014, our upcoming goals are, the biggest goal that we're working on right now is creating an integrated GEMS communications plan. And we recently have met with all the academic units, and this was mainly to discuss enrollment, but I was also there not only to take notes, but also to get some more information about each school, learn about your goals, make sure that anything that we're doing in communications or marketing lines aligns with each of your communications and marketing plans along with the university's overall mission. So in this future plan of ours, we're going to develop clear objectives, strategies, and tactics, and then have a list of tools that we're going to use to measure our success. And this is just a really basic thing, but I think it's something that our office has been missing just to keep us on focus marketing-wise. So another feature that will be included in our integrated plan is an internal calendar. We really thought it would be beneficial for everyone to have a place where they can go to know, okay, what things are coming down the line, when do I need to update e-pay links or recruitment fair events that are happening or enrollment appointments that are coming. So just a way to keep up with regular events that happen every year that we just need to remind ourselves about, us and you guys, I'm sure. And then an external calendar will also be part of this plan. And a lot of you know I've already started working on this. It's basically a warehouse of information so that we know all the communication that's going out. And some of the wonderful things that Mike's been working on will allow us to see that and track exactly who's received what. And so not only just see, okay, this many people received our email communication, but be able to look at a person and see everything that they've gone through from beginning to end. So it'll provide us with some structure and definitely drive some tactics that are going to support our objectives as well as the university's overall mission. And then lastly, we really wanted to focus more again on that prospect pool. So I think right now, GEMS was sort of in the inquiry and applicant phase of things, and we're really trying to branch out into that prospects channel. A couple of things, again, the prospects email marketing tool, separate from email manager, is one of the ways that we're going to explore doing that. So eventually down the line, we'll be able to look at any person that comes into our system from the prospect to enrolled student, and hopefully as we progress in all of our goals and data enhancements, we can also incorporate alumni and really use GradNet for more than just enrollment management. Again, to help achieve this goal, we're developing new CRM capabilities, And we hope to eventually marry all the GradMet capabilities into one happy system where we can track and journey, take the same journey that a student's taking through this life cycle. And if there's anything I can say about my colleagues is I'm definitely the visual data person. I am so thankful that we're coming up with these things. I think a lot of people are in the same boat as me. And I think once we'll be able to visualize and identify additional trends, it's really going to make a big impact on our marketing efforts. Anyone have any questions?
Pardon me a second while I recalibrate here. Maybe use Mike. Mike got me out of my IBM and got me into Mac. I'm very dramatic with Mac. Okay, some of you may know, last year I was appointed to the NAGAP's National Research and Global Issues Committee, and how this all started being on this committee was I was having an airplane ride with a colleague of mine from SUNY Potsdam, who was actually formerly at Syracuse University, and him and I started having a conversation with the president of NAGAP about the fact that graduate is treated so, we think, differently than undergrad, and university leaders are out of touch with where graduate education is versus undergraduate. Staffing levels are different, blah, 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 blah. So really what had happened is part of the president's mission of NAGAP was to change the vision of the institution going well beyond admissions and recruitment. How many of you here, and I'm just asking this question, whenever you started your position, some of you have just started, so it may not be as relevant, but how many of you have seen, faculty included, that your role maybe have gone past admissions and recruiting into other areas of the student life cycle recently? How many of you have seen that? Student services, fellowships, scholarships, leveraging those fellowships and scholarships. All of these pieces are emerging at the graduate level. And what we thought needed to happen was, instead of NAGAP calling itself the leader in graduate enrollment management, what we needed to do is we actually needed to first, and we're going to briefly touch on that, but I'm actually going to be presenting at the NASPA organization, which is the Student Affairs organization, with my colleague Josh from Potsdam in March, to talk about how the scholarly research in this area of GEM is lacking. Okay? And really what I'm going to be talking about with you now, and I know this is at the end of our time here, but I think it's also very important because we get some perspective on the direction of where I see GEM's heading and the institution itself, because this is also applicable to your individual schools. Although it could be a university effort, I think some of the university departments are going to want to utilize a GEM model differently. School of Management may already have one in a way. Whereas the College of Arts and Sciences, it may be more challenging, but there are opportunities where we can look towards leveraging a better model that's adaptable to them. We're going to talk about the research plan. I'm going to go over our hypothesis and some preliminary results we have found in terms of our qualitative research that we have done. And I'll see this by the reaction I get from people. I mean, really the generalizations that we obtained through our qualitative research when we met and talked with people at various levels is that undergraduate models are primarily dealing with centralized recruitment. We see that there's coordination of all aspects of the student life cycle under one umbrella in general. There's higher staffing levels. There is a definitive starting and stopping point of staff roles and responsibilities beyond the primary function. Meaning that if you're admissions, you're admissions. Okay? You stop at admissions. You don't keep going. All right? Campus leadership is more in tune with the needs of enrollment issues. And some of that's self-inflicted, and we're going to talk about that. At the graduate level, it's primarily decentralized recruitment with some sort of oversight that's handled centrally. There is some coordination and oversight, but it's generally fractured and complex. You're expected to do more with less. There is an evolution to increasing responsibilities of staff roles beyond the primary responsibility or function for which the office operates in. And there's a perceived lack of knowledge and support from campus leadership on these very issues. Undergrad has an advantage in this sense, and I'm not trying to peg undergrad and grad together. You're going to see where I'm going with this. They're crossing in a way. Undergrad has a history on its side, a long-standing history of how admissions was handled at the undergraduate level. There's academic quality is handled at the institutional level. We talk about SAT, ACT. It's much simpler than when you start getting into graduate, the differences with associations and how quality is measured. Undergrad is service-oriented. It's very service-friendly. Current models, some people may have heard of old enrollment management models of the 1980s, committee-based, coordinator-based, matrix system, enrollment management division, which now we are a part of. And usually the undergraduate enterprise within the enrollment management division is considered secondary. That is not the case here, and I'll be talking about that later. There's an emerging model, however, that we're noticing from colleagues, feedback we've gotten from colleagues. Undergrad is actually moving back to the model that grad has right now. They're actually bridging back to the academic unit. Our own institution is actually starting to do this. Our undergraduate institution here was recruiting for the institution before at the undergrad level. Now they're actually moving towards, we need to get the academic enterprise involved in the recruitment process if we're to be successful at bringing in more students. This is especially more important now given the declining New York State high school population. Capitalizing on the uniqueness of the academic programs, you're seeing more and more of this. Our peers are going in this direction. At the graduate level, you're seeing an emergent and evolving model, and academic quality, as it has always been, has been based on the program level. There's a reliance on external student services resources outside the graduate enterprise. This is what we're currently dealing with. The current models we've heard, because this is born out of admissions and recruitment, is centralized, decentralized, and hybrid. But the enrollment management division, generally at most universities and colleges, treats the graduate as secondary. Some have even gone so far to try to lump undergrad and graduate admissions together, when in fact that piece causes problems. And many schools are going back towards, let's move them separate. The emerging model here is a GEM model, and we're going to talk about that. And it's not just a one-stop shop in the terms of, oh, you're going to go central for everything. That's not what we're saying. We're saying a one-stop shop even within the decanal area. That maybe the Graduate School of Education would have more services available to be able to handle student success and retention within that school. Or maybe the College of Arts and Sciences, which does not have a well-defined infrastructure, may be able to utilize more central resources based upon a model like this to assist students. These could conceivably work with some of the above models right now, but they have to go beyond admissions and recruitment. How this project began, it's a practitioner-oriented view right now. What we're moving on towards right now is the scholarly research that's out there in an area of strategic enrollment management, and that's what I had talked about we're going to be presenting on in March, so our literature review is currently going on right now. We have some limited literature review that had done, and clearly through the literature review we had done initially, there is an absence of GEM. You don't even hear about it. It's secondary. We're learning from our individuals by benchmarking what they're doing. NAGAP and its role, this came from a change in what the charge of our members were saying and conversations that took place with colleagues. Our profession itself, everything that we're doing, faculty and staff, is evolving, and there's more reliance on us to be able to bring in numbers. The graduate students are also changing. There's a differentiated student experience and the needs are changing. There's also budget and institutional challenges and changes, and we're going to talk briefly about how those impact this. and kind of moving towards a hypothesis towards best practices. Can we continue the dialogue to adapt the way we do business to improve the graduate student experience? We have to adjust to what the students need. We have to adjust to what their service delivery requirements are. And can we do that? Our actual research plan so far has focused on, last year it was at the Advanced Winter Institute with people that typically had 7 more years in graduate enrollment management, everything down from deans all the way down to people who were just working in admission staff. Our focus groups also occurred at the NAGAP annual conference, and we had a discussion on the same topic with the same focus group. We also did the same thing with first-timers at the Summer Institute that had just been starting out in graduate admissions and recruitment and enrollment management. And we also have participated in multiple chapter participations around the country in different states. We're going to be, probably within the next 7 days, if any of you are NAGAP members, you're going to be receiving a quantitative survey that is going to be going through, based upon the qualitative data, where all the common themes that we did a content analysis on, that will be addressing what these issues were and getting the feedback from our membership on a quantitative basis. Then the idea will be to distribute a publication of findings of usable practices. The reason, jump back real quick to phase 5, NASPA and ACRO were included on there, as well as the European Association, because we've been asked to provide that information as well and provide a journal article for them in March. These other organizations have been involved because they are sister organizations to what we do. There are many registrars that do the same thing that you do. There are many people that work in student services that are actually starting to go back. Okay? And when I say this, a registrar at a small college, very small college, may do everything. Whereas at UB, we have our own registrar's office. It's very different. So the way with this model we're looking at is different size institutions and how those things work. So we're going to be interested in collecting information of different categories of institutions. We're also, this is phase 1. We're really looking at distributing a publication of what we found. And then at the same time, we're looking at creating phase 2 and having follow-up research projects. Does this look familiar? The pass-off, I call this, the siloed pass-off. You have somebody, the provost is saying, look, I need this, okay? Well, you gotta go here. It's not my problem. You gotta go here. It's not in my object. Oh, you gotta go over here. This is the classic siloed model. This is where we get ourselves into a lot of trouble, okay? Moving from that, recruiting, financial aid, registration, advising, student services, student success and retention, it's very linear. It's one-way direction in many cases. Many schools are moving in a direction of an evolution towards what we call the integrated interdependence model. The integrated interdependence model, much of GEM, as we said, operates in one direction right now. However, there's a collaboration and interdependence between the student life cycle operations and how they all fit together. They're interdependent in that there are multiple areas of GEM that need to rely on one another, and in some cases they're sequential. But students require differentiated student service delivery. There are institutional impacts on GEM that sometimes are outside of our control. And then also looking at how do you really define a true model. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and I want to stress that again. It's different based upon the size of the institution, based upon the program that you're in. There's a general best practice common theme between all of these. And how do you integrate in the sense of the functional core? And these pieces are interdependent in that each core to the enrollment management works throughout the student experience as one unified entity. Again, an example of kind of where we are at right now with interdependent, linear, going in one direction. Again, this can be used on all levels, micro and macro. And after we got that information back from the focus groups, we created more of a synergy model to look at if you have all of these pieces, even if they're outside of other areas, meaning Central's working, GEMS works with all of your individual schools, your enrollment managers, these pieces are working together in conjunction with coordination. These rise to the need of the senior level administration by working as a coordinated faction. Many of you may not know, but many universities and colleges do not have any coordination whatsoever in terms of graduate. There's a university that I'm currently working with, I'm consulting with, that they have 17 different schools. They are a much larger school than ours. They're much higher ranked than we are. They have 7 different schools within that university, but in fact, there is no central coordination whatsoever. Their provost gets irate that he can't ever get data. There's a complete absence and there's a complete disconnect between policies and what schools are doing, and it's out there. So looking at operating in conjunction of having a common theme and core can, in your own offices, rise the need to the dean, and within Central, it rises as collectively as a group to the needs of the senior leadership on the campus if you're working in coordination with one another. And when we talked about this is flexible, it's adaptable, and it's based on relationships. Really what the key to this is, you want to support stakeholders to be engaged at every part of the student life cycle. There needs to be a cross-trained team. They don't have to be experts in everything, but they have to at least be knowledgeable about what other aspects of the student life cycle exist beyond admissions and recruitment. Building bridges beyond the academic units to key strategic administrative unit leaders. This is a big problem right now. How many of you in here have had a problem with budget and enrollment? Where people are saying, you didn't get your numbers. How many people have ever been told, well, what happened? You haven't gotten your numbers. That's because people at the senior leadership level are maybe not in touch with the operational needs. There's a double-edged sword here in the sense that we also have to step out of that and we have to be more coordinated in communicating our message earlier on. And it's